All right, so now we need to write quite some code here before this can work because we want to make sure that the player dropping the weapon right now. So we want to make sure that the player dropping this M4 is not looting this M4 again. We only want the other guy to loot the M4. So we don't want to interact with it right away, else you keep looting it. So we need to define the dropped weapon. So let me go ahead and make a new custom event. And let's call this one set dropped weapon. And let's run it through the server again. So server set dropped weapon. And then we need to run this on the server and being reliable. And we need to run it through the normal event here. So set dropped weapon. Okay, so down here, we simply just need to set this variable. And I'm going to just click here, add a new variable. It is just the weapon base because we need the weapon. And let's call this one dropped weapon. And let's connect it up here as well. And for this one, let's promote it to a variable and say dropped weapon. Now, I don't think we need to replicate it because I think we only need to run it through the server, but I can't really determine this for right now. So let's do the code, and later on, if we actually use this within the client as well, we need to replicate this. So for now, let's let it be unreplicated. I like things to be unreplicated when they don't need to be replicated, because remember, the more information you replicate, the slower your game will be because you're sending information from the server to the client. So the more information you send, the less performance. So just keep things um, just keep things unreplicated whenever you can. So now we have this dropped weapon. And now for this, when you loot stuff here, when you're interacting with it in the weapon base, we need to make sure that you don't loot the dropped weapon. So what I need to do is here from the player, before I do all of this, I can drag it away. So before I do all of this, I can take this and say dropped weapon and take this here. So if the dropped weapon is equal to self, so this weapon I am trying to loot right now, if it is equal, don't do anything. If it is not equal, so let's actually just delete this and let me say not equal. That will be better for readability. So if the dropped weapon is not equal to the weapon right now I am trying to interact with, then we can go ahead and loot it. However, if it is the same, then don't do anything. So right now we haven't defined the dropped weapon. So let's actually do that. Let me save this. Let me go back to the player base. And up here, whenever we drop the weapon, let's actually set this dropped weapon and define it. So let me call this this event down here, set dropped weapon. And let me just call it here. And the dropped weapon is simply this one. You can just call this one here. And let's move everything closer just like before. And let's compile and save everything. All right, so now we can try it out. So let's click on play and play as the terrorist. Now, if I loot something and I drop it, now you can see I am not interacting with it. However, now the problem is it keeps like this dropped weapon keeps to being the same, so I can actually never loot this weapon again. So we have to remove it whenever, like you can see here, whenever I loot it and I drop it and I come in here again, you can see I can't loot it. However, whenever we leave this collision sphere, I need to reset this dropped weapon variable. So we can do it in the weapon base. Again, remember we use the on component begin overlap. Now what we can use, if you click on the collision sphere again and go down, you can use this one on collision end overlap. So now you can use that to remove the definition of the dropped weapon. So now what we can do is, just like before, let's copy this actor hashtag player because we want to make sure it's the player stepping out of this collision sphere. So let's connect that. And again, switch has authority because we want to make sure it's the server that handles all of that to prevent cheating. And the only thing we want to do is we want to set the dropped weapon to just like reset the variable. So take this and say get player info or get player reference, actually, not info, get player reference. Let's connect it and let's call the set dropped weapon and set it to nothing. So we're just resetting the variable. All right, so here it is. So let's compile and save everything and let us give it a try. So if I click on play and I play as the terrorist now and I run into the M4, I drop it, I run out of it, I run into it. Now you can see it is working perfectly. I don't loot it instantly. I only loot it whenever I leave this interaction sphere and I enter it again. I can loot the weapon. Now, let us try to click on play and play as two players now. So if I minimize this client, and actually this is the server, and let's play as the client as well. So as the client, I can loot the M4. The server takes a look. That looks nice. I can drop it. Looks correct. I can loot it again. Looks correct. Okay. I can try to give you this weapon. So here I am going to drop it. And this guy now loots it. I can drop it from this guy now. And now you can see I can't actually loot it. So I can try. Sometimes it bugs out. So you can see sometimes when I drop, it actually bugs out. So I don't loot it instantly. And that is because the collision sphere, you can see here, I can't loot it anymore. I am trying to walk into it and I can't loot it here as the server. And this is because the other player is actually standing on it and it's taking the collision from that other player that is standing on it. So whenever the new player tries to connect with it or interact with it, it's actually not doing anything. So the problem right now with this begin overlap is it's only checking for one player. If there are multiple players overlapping this collision sphere, it's actually bugging a bit out. So we have to fix this as well. You can see we have a lot of things to fix, and that is simply the nature of games. You keep getting problems that you need to fix, but it's really nice when everything is working and everything is written. Now, let's go over to the next lesson and keep improving the code.